Welcome to the Authors Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Authors Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Authors Porch, where every great conversation happens, and it happens because we trusted Brendan and Vamsi at Master Talk to show us the power of effective communication. We also make sure we have a great cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, a Christ-centered, veteran-owned coffee company. Today on the show, we have William Joseph Roberts. How are you doing, William?
Doing good. Tired from the drive.
You know, I'm looking at my little thing here and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't change the name. I almost called you the guest that I had last night. Wouldn't that be awkward?
Hey, I got so many names. That's okay. I answer to just about anything. So.
Before we came on live, I says, okay, am I calling you William? Am I calling you Joseph? Am I calling you Roberts? And you were like, you said, what did you tell me? You said, I'll go by my Air Force call sign. That's
you
okay.
can call me Hillbilly because that's what most everybody calls me anyway. I mean, it just bled over from my Air Force days into the author community because there are so many authors out there that are veterans.
That's true.
I mean, half of them here at Superstars. I'm for everybody watching. I'm at the Superstars Writing Seminar in Colorado Springs, Colorado. 3 days of travel, and now I'm here, and it's like, oh my God, awesome! There's so many cool people here. But half of them are military.
I need to get on William's level, but let me give you guys a little bit of background about William so you guys know, because I've had a conversation with him before. We were introduced by Patrick Faulkner, who is the host of the Knock and Talk show, who is an Air Force veteran, law enforcement veteran as well. So I've already had a conversation with William before. I know a little bit more about him than the audience. Well, some of the audience. I'm sure there's audience out there that knows plenty more. But anyways, in a previous lifetime, William Joseph Roberts was a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force, and he was also an F-15 mechanic. For those out there, those are those planes that drop bombs on targets. Just so you know. After that, he became a jack of all trades, Renaissance man. He calls himself an insane Squirrel Wrangler. I'm going to have to know more about that here in a little bit. After his enlistment, he pursued a career in industrial and architectural design engineer, and now he's an eclectic writer. And, through your publishing company, because you have a publishing company
now.
Yeah, I've seen some of the writings that you do and the authoring that you do, and it is very eclectic and very beautiful as well. Like I've looked at your website and done my research a little bit, and I'm like, that's some pretty cool stuff. Like that's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, currently resides, and I'm not going to say that city name, but it's in Georgia.
Chickamauga.
Chickamauga with your wife, and you call them freaky, smart, nerd children. I love that. They sound pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't want to give them chemicals because they might make things.
You know what? Those are going to be the future leaders of tomorrow. Those are the future leaders of tomorrow. And a small pack of fur babies. How many?
Well, let's see. We got 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 7 chickens now because we lost 1 hen.
Okay. Well, I've only got the dogs. I got 6 dogs and that's it. My husband wanted to get goats and all that other stuff, and I was like, okay, we're done. Dogs. So that's the introduction to William Joseph Roberts. So you're in Colorado and you've traveled for a convention. What are you doing over there?
Okay, the Superstars Writing Seminar. It is put on by Kevin J. Anderson. If you don't know who he is, he's wrote Star Wars, Star Trek, Dune. He's done all kinds of stuff. But him, Dave Farland, Eric Flint, Jim Butcher, these guys put together the seminar to help pass on knowledge.
Yeah.
help bring people up a level. I'm here to hopefully learn more on marketing and how to get our stuff out there better.
Hmm.
I want to get more traction. I want to get more readers in for Three Ravens, and my stuff for Three Ravens. I'm working on a novel right now for that I'm going to put through Three Ravens, but I need to know how to push it out there in urban fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, fantasy, sci-fi, we're doing good on. Urban fantasy, I need a little nudge. I need to see what I'm doing wrong, and figuring out some of the algorithms on Amazon and um,
Is that
uh,
even possible to figure out the Amazon algorithms?
it's changing even faster now.
Yeah.
So but using Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Amazon ads, that kind of stuff, and then the networking
Yeah.
that's going to be here this weekend. I mean, I was just bullshitting with Kevin J. Anderson on the walk this morning over in the Garden of the Gods walk,
Wow.
and it's just talking to him. But they're people, they're normal
Yeah.
people. I mean, I was on my drive out here, and my buddy Taylor Anderson, if you don't know who that is, he wrote the Destroyer Men series.
Mm.
And he just called me up to talk. Like, okay, but that's networking,
Yeah.
and us as authors, that's part of the gig. You can't be an introvert. You have to get out there and talk to people.
Yeah. You know, so somebody like me, and I've been very vocal about my issues with networking. I have social anxiety. I have no problem talking. It's just the close proximity that gets my social anxiety to an all-time freak out panic mode. But if
Right.
you get me on here, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Well,
S-
and at a convention though, if
Yeah.
you're at a convention and you're actually up at the table,
Mhm.
you don't have that many people around you, and there's people in the audience. So maybe that distance that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you get into this conference? Is it something you signed up for? Was you
Yeah,
invited personally?
and it's a pretty penny too. I mean,
Yeah.
this one, I'm going to probably drop about $3,500 by the time this is all done because the conference itself was over 1,000.
Wow.
The hotel is not cheap,
Mhm.
and but staying here in this hotel where everybody else is, where you can network and you can go down to the bar and hang out and talk, that's important to me.
Yeah.
That's where I'll make some connections that might pan out later. Um, and the whole time you sit down and talk to anybody, well, you're already talking shop. You're already
Yeah.
sharing the knowledge that you have in your little field of writing. And I've already learned marketing stuff since I got here,
Yeah.
so it's awesome. And conventions, you build your tribe, and that's one thing that Superstars talks about a lot is it's a tribe community, and we all help out and try to pitch in and share the knowledge and help the others take that step up. Um,
Is that just for one writing genres, or is it just, or is it for
this,
all writing?
this is writing in general. I mean, some of the
Okay.
submissions, like Eric Flint was reviewing the opening for novels, and I joined that workshop. I submitted, and part of the workshop was we were to read all the other submissions, so we knew what he was talking about when he started doing the reviews.
Okay.
And there was literary stuff in there. It's not just science fiction, fantasy, and all. There were literary pieces. There was
Mhm.
some mainstream thriller type stuff. So it's across the board.
Yeah. Now, I know of 2 conferences that I've been kinda eyeing. I go to an online one, BookFest. I do that online, twice a year, and then there's Inkers Con that's gonna be in Dallas this year, and then 20 Books to 50K that's gonna be in Vegas, and I'm kinda looking at 20 Books to 50K and then Inkers Con in Dallas, so I'm kinda, like, on the fence if I'm definitely going to 20 Books to 50K in Vegas, but Inkers Con, I'm like, "Oh, it's in Dallas, it's only a few hours away from me," and
See,
I know go ahead.
I picked this over 20 books
Okay.
because of the intimacy of it.
Okay.
20 books, you've got thousands of people.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got a few hundred here. So
Okay.
your one-on-one time with these bigger guys is a
Mhm.
lot more.
Yeah.
And to me, the value there was better. Um, I do want to go to 20 books and expand things out for Three Ravens,
Mhm.
but right now I think that this one is more valuable because of the connections I can make and the information I can learn versus
Yeah.
trying to push things really hard as a commercial deal at 20 bucks, setting up a
Yeah.
table and all that. So, it's a value thing. You got to balance it.
Yeah, you have to figure out where you're at in your career, what you need in your career at that moment, and which one's going to fit into your toolbox, right?
Right. Absolutely. And, I'm doing that this year with conventions. Chattacon, I had a table for 3 Ravens. Fantasy in Raleigh, North Carolina, I'm going to have a table. LibertyCon in Chattanooga, I've got a table. Imaginarium, I'm not really sold on getting a table yet because it's kind of high. The cost to set up in the vendor room it was like $250 for the weekend. Like I barely squeaked by on the last one, and I got into black. So do I really want to pay $250 for this? And I still got to get the hotel room, and it's gas money. Where
Yeah.
Chattacon, I was at the house already. I just had to drive into Chattanooga.
How do you find all these conferences?
There's actually a fandom resource online that you can find them. Southern Fandom, if you look it up,
Uh-huh.
um, it lists all the conventions in the South. I think they do all the way over into like Kansas and all that too.
Okay, very interesting.
But then you got stuff up north in Wisconsin, all that like Gen Con and Gary Con. Then you've got what is it, LTE, I think, out in Utah. There's conventions everywhere. It's just
Yeah,
you
there is.
got to dig around and find them.
So let's talk about you and writing and how you got, and then your publishing company and how you got involved in all that from an F-15 mechanic, right? Somebody who has schematics and technical orders. Obviously, you did something before you came in the Air Force, but then the Air Force retrained your brain, brainwashed you to be extremely technical, and everything had to be one very particular way to going into this imaginative world, which is fantasy, even urban fantasy, sci-fi, which is all made up.
Well, see, that's one of the things about being a jack. I love technical, but I love fantasy too.
Yeah.
And so I've been writing since like grade school.
Okay.
And I grew up in Southern West Virginia, and I really didn't have anybody to help me figure out how to go about writing.
Mhm.
Even in high school, my English teacher, my literary teacher, they couldn't tell me where to go to, who to talk to, anything like that. And at the time, if I'd have thought about it, I'd have looked at the address in the back of a book and started talking to the people at this publishing company to, hey, where do I go to figure this out?
Yeah.
Because they tend to help sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially back then.
yeah. But I went into the military, did my stint, jumped around the world, all that stuff. Started writing towards the end of my career. Started working on a fantasy novel, and then between being discharged on a medical, getting divorced, going to college, um, remarrying, starting to have kids, things kind of took a back seat, but I was still trying to write and learn how to write. Um, and in 2018, no, 2017, um, I was working at this one company as a design engineer, and the QA guy that was coming in to inspect the pressure vessels and our welding and stuff started talking to me about LibertyCon. We got to chat, and he's like, "What do you know about LibertyCon?" I'm like, "No." And LibertyCon was my changing point. Um, LibertyCon is a writer's business convention. You sit down one on one. I mean, similar to this, but you can just sit down and talk shop, and you're creating worlds with these guys by the end of it.
Mm.
But my first LibertyCon, um, it was a game changer. It's been gangbuster since because in one of the courses, I was doing this little writing piece with Charity Ayers, and I always keep coming back to she gave me permission. It doesn't matter my wife, my family, anybody who liked my stuff. This perfect stranger just gave me permission to write this. And the switch flipped and it's game on. And the piece that I actually wrote in her little workshop ended up going into the anthology piece that I got invited to do at that con. The
Wow.
next year, I got asked to do 3 novels. It's just like boom, 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 and here we go. We're rolling. I made a publishing company, you know,
Wow.
and the whole basis of the publishing company was to publish my labors of love. And I have 2 partners in Three Ravens, and that's Benjamin Tyler Smith and R.J. Layden. Um, they are the more introverted, and I'm the extrovert that likes to yell it and get on things like this.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a place that we can take those things that we don't want to give away to someone else and publish them ourselves.
Yep.
And but like this convention, I want to learn how to make that better and put it out there better, get more readers to it.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, and it's a lot of work. It really is. And there's a difference between hobby authors and professional authors. The
Yes.
hobby authors tend to be the ones that just want to talk about it. They like to go to the coffee shop and like, I'm an author. What'd you publish? Well, I'm working on this one and this one and this one, and they never get anything done.
Yeah.
In one year, I had 4 novels. Last year, I'd lost count of how many short stories I wrote, but last year was the year of anthologies. So many other people were right there with me. We all overcommitted on short stories. It's just like, oh dear God, I'm never doing this again. What was I thinking? And then I go and make a bunch of other anthologies for next year. And part of it was my problem because I decided to do this one and this one.
Jiminy Christmas, those are massive.
Yeah, well, see, okay, this is also part of the learning curve. Okay, there were 17 authors in Starflight. Let's see if I can get it better. Okay, this is based on an old video game from the 80s that I talked to the IP holder
Okay.
and they got permission to write in the universe.
Nice.
So, 17 authors in that one.
Wow.
There's 19 in this one, with an opening
Golly.
by an Emmy Award-winning horror actor, Bill Oberst Jr. And it's cheesy B-rate fun, just like you think it might be.
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, Army of Darkness, the Evil Dead, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned that we're not doing any more than like maybe 12 or 13 authors next time, and I can pay people more that way too.
Yes.
Because you divide out the earnings between the different authors. But it's work, and you if you want to do it, you're going to do it, and you jump in and you just do it.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually jumped on. So I remember talking to you. We had our first conversation. Patrick introduced us, and I was like, "Yeah, let's jump on a call. Let's chat because I'm always looking to chat to another Air Force person because I swear all I ever do is talk to Army people nowadays. I mean, I love my Army brothers and sisters because my husband's prior Army, so nothing bad against them or anything. But I never get to talk to Air Force people. It's like we're just a dying bunch or something. I don't know where we're at. Um, so I was like, yeah, let's talk. And we got to talking, and I was talking about how I was going to do 3 anthologies. I was going to, publish 3 anthologies, and I was going to have people come on. And we got to talking about some of that. And then after talking to you, I took those down. I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for that in my career. Like being the person that puts them together. Like
yeah,
I realized at this point in my career, I'm not ready to be the host of an anthology, but I did jump on one that someone else is hosting, and all I got to do is write and help promote. And I'm like, oh, I can help promote because I'm
well,
loud and I'm proud all over social media, and I can write, but I can't host it. So yeah, so thank you
it,
for that because when I
it is a
realized all
lot
the
of work.
work, I was like, I didn't want to
Well,
do all that.
well, now you've got to edit the stories. You have to turn down stories sometimes.
Yeah,
You have to organize them and figure out the layout that you're doing. Sometimes it's not so hard. Other times it is because with the trailer park when we tried to differentiate what creature feature, we didn't want 2 aliens and 2 zombies back to back, so we
yeah.
spread them out. Um, but doing the cover art, doing the publishing side of it, it's all a pain.
Which I mean, I do all of that for my own books already, but when you started talking about royalty splits and
Mhm.
all the other stuff, I was like, no, I was just going to give them 100 books and tell them they have, that's in the book and and then I didn't
Well, you can do
realize,
that as long as you write the contract like that too. If you
yeah,
just give them a flat rate of okay, $100 per story, cool. My
Yeah.
first one, it was $40 per story, and we got 3 copies of the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
It
the
was
other.
just, yeah, I was like, I'm not, yeah, that was a lot of work. I was like, I got too much going on. I'm gonna just jump on someone else's anthology because I'm better at writing and podcasting and other things than putting together that. After
Yeah.
talking to you, I was like, yeah, William knows a lot more. I'm gonna jump off
I've
of
been doing
trying
it
to
by the
put
seat of
them.
my pants and learning as I'm going. And there's so many things. If you have chapters, or if you have a table of contents, it is the bane of my existence. It never fails. It will go wrong somewhere, and I'll have more contents wrong. And then, yeah, it was on this one. We tried to hold the standard of when a new story or a new chapter starts, it starts on the right hand side.
Okay.
That's something that the big boys do. But like, okay, there we go. So it's on the right hand side.
Uh-huh.
But then, sometimes Amazon decides to be stupid and it puts it on the other side for some reason. And I haven't figured
Um,
out why they do that. Hopefully, I've got it fixed now because I went back and was like, okay, well, we'll have to redo them after the first printing. But
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of headaches sometimes. There's formatting tools out there you can use too. There's like Vellum that's Mac based. There's another one that Quincy was going to talk about here at Superstars that's Windows
They
based.
they just came out with Atticus, and I've
This
been
Atticus
using
thing, I haven't
Atticus.
looked at it yet.
Yeah, they've integrated Book Brush with Atticus and some other of the industry standard type of little cover design and graphic stuff within Atticus. I really like Atticus.
Okay, we
I've
haven't
gotten
looked at it
some
yet. I need
great ebooks and print with Atticus. I love it. I've only
to.
had it for a couple months, but I'm in love with it. It's because I saw Volume and I was like, I don't have Mac, so what do you got for Windows? Because I don't want to learn Mac. I mean, I have iPhone and everything, but I don't want to learn MacBook. Not my gig.
Yeah,
So you write, do you predominantly write sci-fi and fantasy or?
I'm all over the place. Sci-fi, fantasy. I've done some horror, post-apocalyptic, urban fantasy. Um, I got a kids book that I've got started.
Okay.
Um, it just depends on what the evil mind squirrels want.
Do you got a
And
romance?
I haven't yet. No, I
I
have
like,
I have notes down for a Victorian romance. Uh,
oh,
and one
nice.
day I might actually get around to writing it because I jotted all my notes down, got the squirrels happy for the moment, and I'll probably have to go back to it eventually. But right now, it's at least jotted down. And at the time, I was listening to the Outlander series, so that
Oh,
helped
good.
fuel that.
Yeah. Wow. You do really do. So let's talk about the evil squirrels. Let's talk about Squirrel Wranglers. Is
Well,
that
let's
pretty
see.
much?
There's Frank and there's Jose, and we got him named. Frank is at the very back, and he runs the jukebox. It's running 7 different songs at the same time in the back of my head. So I'm sitting there bebopping to this weird mix, and
It's so
they
funny.
they got the desk is all messed up in there, and they got paper scattered everywhere trying to
So
figure out
desk
this
is all
and that.
messed up.
Oh God,
Uh,
and anything can spur it. You know. I go back to this one. Me and the wife, we were sitting at Applebee's one day, and I looked over, and there were these 3 ladies at the bar. But this one in the center, the way she's carrying herself, the way she was carrying on the conversation, and I couldn't hear her, but it was her body language and the way she was speaking to her friend. I started forming this bad guy in my head, and that ended up actually being one of the bad guys at the start of book 2 for my Terra Nye series. Um, but I'm sitting there just like I need a pen. I need something. And we're like snatching a pen from the waitress, and wife went out to the car and got something to write on. And by the time she got back, I already had a napkin. I'm sitting there scribbling, you know, just to get the idea out of my head so I didn't lose it.
yeah. So the wife is quite used to the angry squirrels.
God, yes.
Okay, so she's well versed with the angry squirrels and she has adopted them.
Yes, and if she sees me staring off into La La Land, she knows something's processing.
Okay. Okay. I love that. That's a relationship that goes down in history books.
Well, and I've seen so many different um, relationships when it comes down to authors, and
Mhm.
this one author I know, um, her husband doesn't understand it, doesn't click with it, and said, "Oh, you just do your thing." He doesn't even read the stuff.
Mm.
But there's others that they're right there on top of it. My wife, she reads through all my stuff, she edits my stuff. She helps me with building the characters and idea. We're sitting around the dinner table, and the kids are helping throw ideas around, and
Mhm.
it ends up taking a lot of left turn tangents sometimes, but that's okay. Um, there's others that like James and Jeanette Hunter. They run Shadow Alley Press.
Oh.
He's the writer. She's the the advertising genius. She's the
Yeah.
one putting the stuff out there. And they work great as a team doing that.
Yeah, my husband tells me he can't figure out when I'm talking about a real person or a character. Yeah. So he doesn't I won't say that you'll see one of my books in his hand, but I quite often talk so much about them, he doesn't need to read the book because he already knows everything that's going on. And
Right.
he
Yeah.
can't tell if I'm talking about a real person or a character. So after a while, and I'll say something about, oh, I need to make sure I write that down, or I got to change that later. He'll be like, oh, that was a character. I thought it was one of your cousins because you got so many. And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, that was a character." So, one of these days, he's gonna think when he gets older, he's gonna be like, "What part of my life was real and what part was a book?" You know?
Well,
So
that's part of the curse too. I mean, we go visit our friends.
yes.
We have to go visit our friends. We have to have our adventures with our friends.
Yeah.
And one of the things I try to strive for in my writing is the immersion.
Mhm.
I want the reader to feel like they're there, to be angry and to cry with them and to, get upset or to be happy.
Mhm.
Um, so, to do that, you have to immerse yourself into that world
Yeah.
and become part
Absolutely.
of it. And it at the end of the day, when my writing time's done, I get up at 0400 every morning,
Mhm.
with the exception of when I'm sick or something, then I'll sleep in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
0400, and I write till 6, and that's when I clock into the day job. And I don't want to leave sometimes because I'm there. I'm right there in it. I'm in the thick of it. We're having a great time, or we're trying to kill something, or whatever.
I almost killed it, and
I
you
get out of
damn
this
alarm.
situation, and it's just going sideways. So,
Yeah. So what's your hope? What is your dream with Three Ravens and or your writing?
to go full time. I don't want a
Yeah.
day job. I, I,
Yeah.
I love doing this, and I love, you know, invoking emotion and physical reaction in my readers.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just amazing. With Wildcat Foreclosure of a Dream, it was my post-apocalyptic one, my third novel. Um, there are scenes in there that I can't go back and read, and they're really hard to even think about, honestly,
Mm.
because it's dealing with like suicide and stuff like that with this character who lost his wife and his son,
Wow.
and um, it I understand method actors because they get into the headspace of that character. And I had more than a few Facebook messages and stuff from people. It's like, thank you for being so raw and putting it out there of how these situations happen and how people feel.
Mhm.
And there was some vets that had responded to me on that side, and it's a PTSD. It really is, and I've got my own, just like most of us have served.
Mhm.
Um, Probably not nowhere near some of the boys that were front line. I mean, I'd hate to think about some of that.
Yeah. Mm,
But if it's something that helps somebody heal, by God, yes.
yeah, that's the ultimate thing. So, if you had any advice to an author out there that's looking to get started or maybe struggling with their own dream of going full time, what would be your advice to them?
Well, the first is usually do it. Stop talking about it. Stop procrastinating. The dishes will get done later. Sit down and do it. Ben Bova, he's the one that told me and put it into my head. If you're going to do it, then sit down and do it. Set your time, and that's when you do it. That's why I get up at 0400 every morning and I write. Um, you know, the next thing would be you really need to learn how to write, and part of that is where do you want to be? What type of genre? I mean, the different genres have different styles of writing.
Yes.
You know, writing third person and writing first person, two different things. So it depends on the story you're trying to tell. It depends on the genre that you're going into, but research the genre. Okay, if you're writing urban fantasy, military sci-fi, go pick up Larry Correa's Monster Hunter International. You can get it for free over at Thebane Books in their library. The ebook is free. That is a perfect example of how to write first person mil sci-fi, urban fantasy. Um, there's a bunch of stuff on the Bain website that's free that you can get a hold of. If your big thing is fantasy, Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
the
such good.
Belgariad. Well, actually, don't write like Lord of the Rings because the way that J.R. Tolkien wrote isn't how we write now. The
Mm,
style has changed. Um, the Belgariad is still good. David Eddings, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. That's a good series, but info dumps are kind of no. David Weber writes amazing, but whenever I'm reading David Weber, I'll skip past the page and a half of physics lesson.
mm.
So you got to find your comfortable spot and where you want to be in your writing style. You know, um, if you're doing info dumps, a lot of people don't like that anymore.
Yeah.
That's an older style type thing. Work
What
the
is
info into your dialogue and stuff.
okay? I was like, what's info dump?
Info dump is where you just do this exposition about how something works, or Anne Rice took a page and a half to describe a chair.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, I know these too.
Things like that. David Weber, he'll do a page and a half physics lesson on how this weapon actually works. For this missile to be able to hit this ship over here. That's an info dump. But if you
Yeah,
work it into dialogue and things like that, it moves a little smoother. It keeps the pacing going. But it
gotcha.
also depends on the readership you're going for. So that's part of the research. Find out what you need to do, where you need to be.
Mm.
There are tons of author groups to get into. Be leery and be leery of vanity presses. If anybody asks you to pay them to publish your stuff, walk away real quick because it's a ripoff. They'll publish whatever you want them to publish, but it's not necessarily going to sell.
Yep. Yeah. Because you can do it for free
Yeah.
and not sell. And you're not on any money. So, what upcoming projects do you have?
Oh dear God. Um,
Too many to count.
I have to get some novels done this year. I'm working on Shepherd's Call. It's an urban fantasy, the start of the Black Wish universe. Um, after that, I've got to get Words of a Warrior done, which is a fantasy in my Terranai universe, and probably in the second Flux Runners will be next on the list. Other than that, with Three Ravens, we have a slew of open calls. We have Misfits of Magic, which is a fantasy open call. Due date on that is like March 1st. We've got Your Call is Important to Us. It's a military open call. We're doing a coffee table book. The money that comes from this is going to the We Dare charity, and they're using jujitsu to help brothers and sisters to heal from their PTSDs or at least get it under control.
Is that the one
Um,
with Cassidy?
yeah, that's the one with Cassidy.
Yeah, I
Uh,
submitted a piece with that one.
let's see, I've got Blood, Sweat, and Steel, which is a military sci-fi mechanized warfare antho. There's Tomorrow is Hope, which is a hard science fiction antho. Um, JTF 13. It's our uh, military units dealing with supernatural threats on the battlefield.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So we're killing supernatural stuff with overwhelming force. Um, but that's got an open call for a new anthology. It's also open for submissions for novels. Just go to the Three Ravens Publishing.com website, look in the top bar for open calls, and scroll down through and look at all the different ones we have.
What's
Um,
that website? Can you spell that out for me?
Three Ravens Publishing.
Is it the letter or is it the word or the number? So make sure to put it in the chat box here so
I'll put it
people
in the
can.
chat box for you. That'd be the easier thing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, THREERAVEN publishing.com for all the people who listen to the podcast tomorrow.
Yeah, threeravenspublishing.com. Look in
Sweet.
the open calls, um, and sign up for the newsletter. That's the easiest way to find out when new things are coming along. If you like to read, um, look through our stuff. We've got an audio, ebook, print book. Um, if you like getting free ebooks and you'd like to be an early reader, there's a sign up to be an early reader.
I might need to do that because I
Yeah.
love to read. And when you
And
start talking about that military one with Supernatural, I was like, "Ooh, I need to read
yeah,
that."
and we've got 4 books in that series right now. One of the novels is mine, and the next one is High Hopes. It's going to be a World War One piece.
Hmm,
So
okay.
and the JTF universe, it spans like the Revolutionary War to modern day.
Oh, cool.
So and it starts out there's a transition where it's just Special Unit 13, and it transitions into Task Force 13, and now we're Joint Task Force 13 in the
Oh,
modern
yeah.
day. And so it's an interesting universe, and it was handed off to me um, because I had the first novel in the series. So it's like, okay, cool. I'll go ahead and keep it going on Three Ravens.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. So we've reached the part in the show where we're going to give you the reins here. I'm going to take myself off screen, and anything that we did not talk about that you want to make sure you get out there to the audience or anybody that's watching, I take myself off screen. I hand it over to you for 2 to 3 minutes, and you get to take over the entire show. It becomes the William Roberts Show on the Authors Porch. So are you ready?
Okay, sure. All right. So, like I was saying, if you want to check out Three Ravens Publishing, that's where you can find the majority of the stuff that we got going on with the open calls and all that. If you want to check out some of my writing, some of it's listed on Three Ravens because it's through there, and we got things like the Trailer Park, which there is a volume 2 open call for Trailer Park this year too. Look over at www.williamjosephroberts.com, and you can find links to all my published works, some of my personal little bits and pieces for the blog. I'm on TikTok and things like that. I am on so many social media pages. You just go to williamjosephroberts.com, and the links are there to all of them. Same thing with Three Ravens. One of the main things for any authors out there, it's serious. If you really want to be an author and you really want to do this, well, then do it. Stop telling yourself that you're not good. Stop worrying about it. Stop making excuses and doing the dishes and all this other stuff. Sit down and actually write. Do it. If you're just doing it as a hobby and you're doing fan fiction, well, that's fine. You're still writing. If somebody's getting enjoyment out of it, cool. If you actually want to be a paid author, then you got to create your own stuff. There is an amazing author community out there, and a lot of that author community that really binds and becomes a tribe, like Superstars is, or LibertyCon, is going out there and meeting these people and making those connections and um, becoming part of the tribe. I really can't reiterate how important that is, because if you just go it alone, it's going to be really tough. There's a lot to take in if you're going to be an indie publisher doing your own little thing, publishing your work. It's a lot of work. Um, So, it's just, it's worthwhile to make those connections because the information is amazing. Um, just like we were talking with, oh, we're done.
No, no, keep going, keep going.
I was
I'm
gonna say,
just
well, just like we were talking with Vellum and all that, there's other options out there besides Vellum now, and unless you actually start looking hard or you talk to somebody, you're not going to know it.
yeah. Yeah, the networking is so important. And I think it's wonderful that we're able to, and I'm glad that Patrick introduced us because I learned so much that I didn't know about the anthologies that and just by talking to you. And I've got a whole list of notes over here. I don't know if you saw me with my pen over here and I kept looking away every once in a while. It's because I was taking notes. So
Well,
that yeah, when you hit it spot on, the networking aspect, that's how we succeed in the indie author world, and you've got it spot on, William. I really appreciate you sharing all that information. And the beginning of the podcast, man, if I'm going to tell everybody, you need to go, if you don't watch the entire show, which you should because there's a lot of information, but at least the first 15 minutes when you were talking about all of the different conventions and all the breadth of knowledge you get from them. I mean, I think every indie author in the entire indie author world should be listening to that first 15 minutes of you spitting that knowledge out to them.
yeah, and here as soon as we get done, I'm getting ready to do some more of that networking because a bunch of us are going over next door here to have some dinner and hang out, and it's going to be talking shop the whole time.
Well, I don't want to keep you because that is very, very important. But I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to talk to you. And I know that we'll talk plenty more because I'm going to be hitting you up and be like, hey, William, what are you doing? What are you
Hey,
getting into?
I'm always willing to jump on and talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight and for sharing all that wonderful knowledge that you have and for putting that book together and doing everything that you're doing for the veterans and giving back because that's what we're always striving to do is helping people. And I appreciate that. Guys, don't forget to come back each week, watch us live or go ahead.
Well, okay. The JTF 13 Origins Anthology, the first book that started it. The proceeds from that go to the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association.
Nice.
So anybody that buys a copy, it's going to help brothers and sisters.
That's even more of a push for me to buy it because I was already hooked on the storyline. So now that's even more of a push to read it even faster now. Awesome. So make sure you guys come over, ask Alexa or Siri. She's plugged in this time. She's listening to me. To play the latest episode of our podcast. Head over to our website, catch our latest issue of the magazine. It came out in January. Next issue of the magazine comes out in April, the 4th of April. Deadline for all submissions is the 1st of March. I had to make sure I was going back 30 days. We want to continue making authors' dreams come true by providing them a platform to shine. We'll see you guys next time. If you appreciate conversations like we do and you want to become a better speaker, visit our friends, Brendan and Bomsey, of mastertalk.ca, where they teach you how to use the power of your voice. Don't forget, stay awake with a nice cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin. Best cup of coffee on this side of heaven over at thirddaycoffeeseguin.com. Until next time, my friends, I'm CJ. This is William Joseph Roberts of Three Ravens Publishing. Go read his books and write on. Bye, William. Bye, everybody.
Thank y'all.
The Authors Porch is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support, tune in, share, and subscribe.